For anyone that has seen Dragon Quest III HD-2D Remake, it should be no surprise that the upcoming Dragon Quest I and II HD-2D Remake is vastly different than the original games. But let's talk about what the actual changes are. There are now completely new visuals that feel similar to the Dragon Quest III Remake. This is a huge upgrade with the previous original games, and even the Super Nintendo remakes being nowhere near this. With those new visuals, Square Enix has decided to add more story elements, so while you shouldn't expect a completely modern and expansive story, it definitely has a lot of changes that are easy to see. Both of the games now have cutscenes, which brings an added weight to a lot of the scenes that were pretty simple back in the day. Not huge, crazy cutscenes back then. Now they look really good. Monsters and characters are all updated to fit better with the overarching themes, bringing it to the same level as the Dragon Quest III Remake. They've even gone so far as to add in enemies, so in Dragon Quest I, you can expect to see enemies not only from Dragon Quest II, but also Dragon Quest III, uniting the stories and the world in a way that hadn't yet been done. It isn't just enemies that have been added, though. They've also added the Princess of Kanek is a new companion, so expect there to be added story and characterization surrounding her. A new addition, something that has been in a ton of different Dragon Quest games, is the mini medals. But there aren't just collectible medals, you also have to get medals in order to progress the story. In the original Dragon Quest, you would also only fight one enemy at a time. That's been changed, so now you'll be fighting multiple enemies in many battles, keeping that continuity between the three games. They've added spells to do the same. Obviously, they needed to balance the addition of multiple enemies in battles, so that adds spells that target multiple enemies. So there are definitely a ton of changes to the battle systems of the games, including, of course, the option to change the battle speed, which will make the grinding that you usually have to do in these games a lot easier. I know that's been a barrier to entry for people in the past. In both games, there are now added areas, including entire islands that weren't in the original two games, and obviously included in those areas will be more story, more characters, and more things to do. There will also be hidden areas, which adds a lot of random little secrets, items, and locations to the world map, making exploration even more important than it already was. So I would expect even fans of the games that have played them a ton of different times will be able to get something new from this. But for new fans that might be worried about that old school challenge, don't worry, there are now multiple difficulty modes similar to the ones that are in Dragon Quest III. So even if you want to play the games just to go through the story, you should have that option available. Of course, to go with all of the visual changes and the changes to the content, there will be changes to the audio, which means a new and updated soundtrack, which is all orchestral. Voice acting has also been added in both English and Japanese. Dragon Quest I and II are a big part of the history of JRPGs and a big part of my personal history, because the original Dragon Quest, called Dragon Warrior in the US, was the first JRPG that I ever played. For a kid that was like 6 or 7, that was a pretty hard experience. I remember spending a lot of time in and around the first area of the game because I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I'd rush across the map trying to get as far as I could before inevitably being taken out by some random enemy, probably a ghost in the middle of nowhere. But I came back to it over and over again because I hadn't experienced anything like it. There was something about it that I loved, and I would eventually figure it out and grind a little bit before I got any further. So this will be a great treat for me, being able to see all of those locations in a completely new way with a nice, simple story and beautiful visuals added on top, not to mention all of the different changes. And the changes are plentiful in these games, so I tried to keep this video to the changes I thought people would be most interested in. There are, of course, a ton of changes. Are you excited about the Dragon Quest I and II HD remakes? Let me know in the comments. I do videos on JRPGs, Western RPGs, and story-based games, so if you like that, subscribe. Thanks for watching.